First, a word from our sponsor, The Tomb of Gygax by GUI Cube, an adventure homage and campaign setting honoring Gary Gygax, brought to you by Luke Gygax and publisher Alphinius Goo. The Tomb is a brutal, grim-dark dungeon crawl in the classic old-school style, and the campaign setting completely unique, featuring a number of old-school luminaries as NPCs that you can encounter and interact with. The ghost of Gerald Gygax, Luke Gygax and his family, Peter Ackes and Mike Carr, Larry Elmore, Ed Greenwood, Errol Otis, plus me, Dan the Didactic. And we also contributed writing to this project. And if you've never seen them, GUI Cube products are first rate. Here's a copy of their last box set, The Darkest Dream. Comes in a sturdy cardboard box with reward cards, magic item cards, NPC cards. These books are spiral bound so they lay flat on your table, slick pages, and first-rate art made by humans. Pledge early and you get a ton of extra stuff. Link below.
Deathbringer here. Subscribe to the channel and sign up for the Deathbringer RPG newsletter at the link below.
Welcome to Dungeon Craft. I'm Professor Dungeon Master, and this channel is about independent and homebrew RPGs. Today we're looking at two games that evolved from Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and they are the Zweihander starter set, coming to Kickstarter soon, and Warlock Traders Edition. Now, full disclosure, this is not a paid review. I bought Warlock Traders Edition some time ago, and I was sent this complimentary copy of Zweihander by Andrews McNeil Publishing. They sent me a free copy of the game, but I was planning to review it anyway because so many of my patrons have asked for it. So let's take a look. To understand these games, it helps to know something about the history of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Warhammer first appeared in 1986. Produced by Games Workshop, it presented a grim world of perilous adventure set in a Renaissance-era world with dwarves and magic, but also flintlock pistols and gory critical hit charts, making it feel like a more grown-up rated R game than the PG D&D. Warhammer stayed in print for nearly 20 years and got a reboot by Black Industries in 2004. That design team included Robert Schwab and Jeremy Crawford, who would go on to work on Dungeons & Dragons. Warhammer 3rd Edition came in 2009 and pretty much got the same reception as 4th Edition D&D. It seemed too different from previous editions to the point where it was Warhammer and IP only. Warhammer fans were disappointed and took to continuing to produce material for the 2nd edition on sites like Strike to Stun, where I first encountered what was then known as Corehammer, an unofficial update by Daniel Fox. In 2019, Zweihander emerged as a sort of pathfinder to Warhammer's D&D. The basic core system and dice are the same, but the action economy and some mechanics are different. Now let's take a look at these two games, beginning with Zweihander. Zweihander Fantasy Horror RPG comes either in a black matte box or with a color cover. The contents of the boxes are identical. This cardboard box is thick. It's almost chipboard and reinforced at the edges. They spared no expense to make sure this box is going to last. Great attention to detail. And this is what comes in the box. Dice, 2 rule books, foldable GM screen, village poster, 13 character sheet folios, 72 clue, injury, and spell cards, and a Zweihander poster. The classes include Etherealist, their version of Wizard, Barber Surgeon, Bravo, Charlatan, Chosen, Gambler, Jester, Investigator, Pugilist, Reeve, Sellsword, and Smuggler. 3D map locations include taverns, caverns, castles, a ship, and more. Then there are the clue cards for the starter adventure. And this town map that I had to stand on a chair to photograph to fit into the frame. The sheer amount of stuff in this box is redonkulous. Let's start with the player guide, and I'll also demonstrate how to play with 2 characters. We've got the Barber Surgeon and the Bravo. I just love the art on these. The Bravo Surgeon with the ripped off arm, and the Bravo who looks like Monica Bellucci in, what's that movie? Brotherhood of the Wolf, which I absolutely love. All right, so let's look at the player's guide where we got most of the rules here. So it starts out like, what's the role-playing game? What's the game master do? How do you narrate the game? Then we get into the basics of how the game works. This is a percentile system, so you're trying to simply roll under your ability score with a percentile. Ooh, look, I got a 1. And there are attributes and skills that augment those attributes, which we'll get into in a second. If you roll under the number you need to roll, but roll matching numbers, it's a critical success. If it's over the needed amount and you roll doubles, it's a critical failure. There's also their concept of advantage called flip to succeed. You roll 2 dice without designating the 10s and the 1s digit and choose the lower. In this case, it would be 19. Players also have fortune points, which can be used to alter die rolls, and fate points that can save your characters because this is a very deadly game. There are 7 primary attributes: agility, brawn, combat, fellowship, intelligence, perception, and willpower. And they give you bonuses to different things. Like your perception bonus affects initiative, and your combat bonus affects damage inflicted with melee and ranged weapons. One notable change, and I think it's a really good one, is how ability scores are generated. In old Warhammer, it's 2d10 plus 20, but here it's 2d10 plus 35, so that would be 45. That means your base attributes are higher. And this solves a common problem with first edition Warhammer, where the average new character had between 30 and 35% chance to hit, and that led to a lot of whiffing. These characters are a lot more competent, which speeds the game. You could choose an age, an ancestry, and you have the typical ones: humans, halfling, elves, dwarves, but other ones like the Awakened. And each of these gets a random ancestral effect, so that all of them will be different. Of these, I find the most interesting to be the Siabra, who cover their faces in masks and express themselves mostly in hand gestures. Like in Warhammer, characters can roll a build, a stature, a complexion, eyes, hair, distinguishing marks. There is corruption if you do evil things. Your character could become insane or mutated. Trappings, this is the stuff you can buy. Armor in Zweihander absorbs damage. Combat is based on an action economy. You get 3 action points and you can basically do 3 things per round. And you're trying to roll under your combat skill with a percentile dice. That would be a miss. And that would be a hit. And another improvement over Warhammer is the Fury dice, which are used to determine damage. They're not called damage dice, they're called Fury dice, which I love. When you roll the Fury die, if you roll a 6, it explodes, and you get to roll again, and add that, plus your combat bonus to your damage total. And certain weapons, like a Zweihander, use multiple dice. And if either one comes up 6, you roll again. So that's 11, 17, 22 plus my 4 is 26 points of damage. Then you subtract the target's damage threshold, which is their brawn and any armor points they might have. So let's say their brawn is 4, they have 3 armor points, that's 7, I did 26 hit points of damage. The target takes 19 hit points of damage. So this creates a kind of a feeling of these characters dancing back and forth, doing minor damage, and then someone sees an opening and does explosive damage. And there's a damage tracker. The more wounded you are, the more chance you have of taking a critical, debilitating, or even lethal blow. Spells essentially work the same way, only the threshold is your willpower instead of your brawn. And you got different combat conditions and options like called shots and ranged attacks, etc., etc. Game Master Secrets contains how to keep the game moving, how to say no, how to handle disagreements, structure versus narrative time, how to handle social interactions, critical spell failure charts. Like in many grimdark games, it's roll to cast and magic can go very wrong. We also have a scenario called The Secrets of Swansea by James Intricaso, whom you may know from his work with MCDM. And it's a mystery featuring a cult and a conspiracy and cannibalism. Real grimdark stuff. I like the layout a lot, with all the important information here in bullet points, or skull points as it happens. Easy to read and navigate. And it sets up the vibe. This is a game that's not just about hack and slashing, it's about mysteries, and then hack and slashing. We also have an expanded bestiary and 3D maps of the locations. Great stuff here. I really like the character sheet folios. It bullet points what a Bravo can do. Like you get a lightning reaction at the start of your turn. You get an additional action point that you can use to parry or dodge. It identifies your abilities, and on the inside of the character sheet, all the skills are listed in alphabetical order. There aren't levels like in D&D. Instead, you buy advances based on your occupation. When you've completed all of your advances, you go on to another occupation. Although Zweihander doesn't offer the sheer range of classes that Warhammer does, it offers the most interesting classes, the ones my players played anyway. Some criticisms. The font on the character sheet's a bit small for me to read. Combat is crunchy, and crunchy can mean slow. Like Warhammer's Zweihander probably works best in a smaller group of 3 players plus the GM. Maybe 4 players if people really know what they're doing. But Zweihander offers a lot of value in this box. I love the exploding dice. You want to run a game in a grim dark world like Brotherhood of the Wolf, Game of Thrones, or The Witcher, Zweihander may be for you. Before we continue, if you enjoy independent RPGs and want to support the channel, you can do so at Dungeon Craft Patreon. There you can get extended video content, how-tos, GM advice, and access to the Dungeon Craft Discord. And as always, thanks to all the patrons who made this content possible. Alright, now let's take a look at Warlock Traders Edition. This is hardbound, just about 150 pages, and the best way I could describe it is as Warhammer D20. Let's look at the character sheet. Here, like in Warhammer and Zweihander, we have a complete list of skills. Your current career, your past career. This is a familiar roll D20, roll high system. Creating your characters, you generate your stamina by rolling 2d6 plus 12, luck 1d6 plus 7. Then you can choose a community, human, elf, dwarf, halflings, just like Warhammer. And like Warhammer, you choose a career, and they come with skills. And those skills are self-explanatory. Disguise. You can adopt the gait, voice, and mannerisms of another person, which essentially gives you a bonus to a 20-sided die. You can choose a basic career or roll it randomly. There are 20 here to choose from, including beggar, agitator, bounty hunter, footpad, entertainer, gambler, mercenary, outlaw, raconteur, peddler, road warden, rat catcher. And each comes with a random chart to make your thief a little different. Like, who or what have you robbed recently? Who wants you dead? For the tomb robber, what have you robbed recently? What did you find there? I almost left out, you can be a wizard's apprentice. Roll where have you been? What have you learned? A list of traits, so you can give your character a personality, equipment, and the core rules. The basic test is you roll a 20-sided die, add the character's skill level, and try to obtain a total of 20 or more. If you do, you succeed. Improving. Each career has 5 advances, and as you gain experience points, you buy off those advances, and when you finish the career, you can move into a different career. Advanced careers include assassin, bravo, charlatan, mercenary captain, outlaw chief, scout, spy, and other good stuff. Like Zweihander, it offers fewer career choices than Warhammer, but that's okay because my players never seem to want to play all those careers anyway. They really kept the best careers here. Fighting occurs in rounds. We have rules for melee attacks, ranged attacks. Like in Zweihander and Warhammer 1st Edition, only d6s are used to calculate damage, which speeds the game because you don't have to keep hunting around for different shaped dice. Armor absorbs damage, and we have critical hits from slashing, crushing, piercing, and blasting weapons. Magic is roll to cast. Roll poorly and you have to roll on the miscast table. And spell descriptions are short and sweet, which some people don't like because of the lack of clarity, but I prefer because it allows a lot of Dungeon Master discretion as to exactly how the spells work, so you don't get overpowered spells. And we have magic items and a bestiary, as well as a brief Game Master section. The art is very nice, there are a few typos, but overall, Warlock is a nice little book. And if you want to play a Warhammer type game, but you've got players who refuse to do anything but roll d20s, Warlock makes a very viable option. Both Zweihander Starter Set and Warlock Trader Edition are available at the links below. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time, and may all your rolls be 20s.
Deathbringer here. Sign up for my RPG newsletter at the link below. And get the quick start rules on Drive-Thru RPG. For the price of a venti caramel macchiato, you will not save the life of a child, but you will have hours of fun with your friends. So get it today, and click on more Dungeon Craft.